when the fight was agreed, 5 weeks notice, what was going through your mind back in, this is the first fight before New York?
When the fight was agreed, we were in a good situation because he had just come off a fight versus Dimitrenko on April 20th. So a week later, we get the call, and we get the call, Eddie Hearn, that is, telling us that we're going to get the opportunity to fight for the world title versus Joshua. So the fight couldn't have came at a better time again because he had just come off a 2-month camp for Dimitrenko, tough fighter, durable. Andy looked great, with his new. He was excited about the whole situation because it just signed with a new deal with PBC and Al Heyman. We fight Dimitrenko, looks great, looks good, and then you get the fight with Joshua. Again, all we had to do was continue working from what we had, the 2-month camp, get a tune-up fight in between, if you want to call it that, with Dimitrenko. We get the fight a month later with Joshua. A week later, we get the fight. Then we fight a month later because we only pretty much had 4 to 5 weeks to get ready for this fight. It was great. The timing was perfect, man.
Those are the words of Manny Robles as he breaks down the beginning, the middle, and the end of the rise and fall of Andy Ruiz and his relationship with Andy Ruiz training-wise, okay? Now, I stopped it there because I want people to understand where Andy was at before the fight, of course where he was after the first fight, and where he was after the defeat of Joshua losing the belts back. So there is a beginning, a middle, and the end. And Robles pretty much gave a new insight on how this and what this fight meant, how this situation really was. Because a lot of people think that Andy Ruiz took the fight on a short notice. Okay? Manny Robles just verified, just counterpunched, just debunked. No, we just got out of a fight in a 2-month camp. He fought Dimitrenko. Dimitrenko is a fighter which, if you're a decent to good fighter, you should beat him. And Andy beat him. Andy stopped him. So it didn't even go a full 10 rounds. Okay? And that was a tune-up like situation. So it was like a tune-up fight for Andy Ruiz for something much, 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 much bigger. Okay? And he got the opportunity, under crazy circumstances. He got it, And it was a blessing for him. And Manny just really broke it down. He went right back into camp. And so he was a fresh fighter. Okay? So he was in more shape or better shape than anyone could have possibly been at the time. Let's continue.
And he's in great shape, right attitude, mentally, physically. So, we were able to shock the world.
Week of the fight, I remember I saw Andy on numerous occasions, and one thing everybody always said, he looked so relaxed. I think many people kind of looked at how relaxed he was and maybe took that as a bad sign, maybe overlooked him because he was so relaxed. What was going through your mind when you saw him in such a state of mind?
Yeah, I mean, you're relaxed because you're confident, because you did everything that you're supposed to do in the gym. You win your fights in the gym at the end of the day. So that allows you to stay relaxed. It allows you to stay confident, during the week of the fight, obviously the press conferences and media workouts and so forth and so on. And but when you're not, it also shows.
Remember, he took a photo, I think it was at a press conference with AJ's belts, and after that, I remember looking at social media, a lot of people were like,
you can change your path.
So, we're going to stop it there for a second. The mental state, physical state of Andy Ruiz was in tip-top shape. And he was ready to go. He was excited. He was motivated. Andy was. There's no doubt about it. I feel that he was ready to fight anyone. Okay? Andy Ruiz was ready to fight anyone. He was probably more.
Do what moves you, because the benefit is.
He was probably more motivated, probably more than he ever been in his life. I think he was more motivated for the first Joshua fight than he was with any other fight. You know, especially the Parker fight. You know, the Parker fight, I think, wherever he was lacking in motivation, it showed. You know, but it clearly wasn't in this situation. So, let's continue.
If that was my belt, I wouldn't be letting him do it. You know, he's got to fight for him. He's got to earn it. What was he? Was he just a kind of a mind game almost? What was it?
You know what it is, man. I mean, it's just Joshua's a nice guy, plain and simple. Hey, you want to hold the belts? You hold the belts. Why not? He's a good guy. He's a nice guy. I don't believe in superstition. I don't believe in any of that whole crap. You know, I just think that the better man won that night, plain and simple. It had nothing to do with me handing you my belts. You know, it's just a better man won, and the man that wanted it the most, the man that had a better preparation and a bigger will, and that's it, plain and simple.
So, you know, that also debunks people superstitious. Hey, you should have let him hold the belts. He's nice. He was too nice, too lenient. And I don't believe in that either. I think, you know, like a bad omen or whatnot. It just showed that Anthony Joshua really wasn't taking Andy Ruiz serious like he should have been. And if you're not taking a fighter seriously, how could you be prepared to fight a fighter that you're not taking seriously? You can't be. You know what I mean? He let his guard down weeks ago when that Jarrell Miller fight fell through. Now, I'm not sure about the Ortiz negotiations or whatever. I don't, you know what I mean? I know he wanted to fight Ortiz. Ortiz was definitely over Andy Ruiz. Ortiz was definitely over Adam Kalnaki. You know, Ortiz was that guy to beat because Ortiz was a common opponent of a rival of his, which was Deontay Wilder. So I can understand that. But I think when he looked at Andy, you know, he wasn't as concerned. So he didn't train as much. Because you have to remember something. Joshua took the same amount of time to train, but then Joshua really wasn't focused like Andy was focused. Andy was hyped up, geared up, ready, crunk, motivated, in shape, physically, mentally, spiritually, right? He was ready to go, right? That's the first time he gained weight because he knew his opponent is a tall 6'6" guy, 250. He knew, well, let me gain some weight so I can put a little bit of more stank in my punches, right? So he needed more punching power, okay? He needed more of what he felt, you know, more weight behind the punches because he does have great, awesome punch delivery, okay? So that was that. So let me keep going.
Well, nothing to do with me handing the belts and bad luck or any of that stuff.
It's obviously come to the night of the fight. A lot of people kind of talked about AJ's ring walk and saying, you know, he looked tense and he was having a neck massage in the corner. Did you see that yourself at the time?
No, I didn't notice any of that. But what I do appreciate about Joshua is that he's never looked for any excuses. Yeah. You know, he lost the first fight and he took it like a man, took it like a champ. That's what I respect about Joshua. I'm one of his biggest fans.
And this shows you about Manny Robles, about trainers, about how this shows an example of how he respects Joshua. Joshua didn't look for any excuses. Joshua didn't look for anything. Joshua, he embraced that loss as though, hey, this is meant to happen. This is destiny. It was destiny because the better man won that night. The better man was more prepared that night, June 1st, Madison Square Garden, okay? So, you know, you got to take your hat off up to him because, you know, Joshua could have been a dick. Joshua could have walked out, didn't even have a press conference, didn't even face the media afterwards. He could have done that. He could have made 150 excuses. But he didn't do it, right? And it's one thing for a trainer of that fighter to bring that up, but it's another thing where the winning side of that trainer brings that up. That shows a lot. Okay, it shows that, hey, you know, that's a stand-up guy there. You know what I mean? And I'm a biggest fan of Anthony Joshua. Anyway, let's go on.
Been a fan of Joshua for the longest time, since he was an amateur. Since I was able to see him win that silver medal, and I got a chance to meet him then. Great guy, humble, down to earth. You know what I mean? And this guy just won a silver medal, and he could have been, you know, on cloud nine. This guy, we rode the same bus on the way back from the arena.